Trump administration policies could make it more difficult to receive federal housing help.
Well, that's according to Atlanta Housing. The agency says the looming federal funding cuts have forced leaders to call for a freeze on rent hikes. But as Joe Ripley reports, that could cause some other issues.
Kamaya Fuller says she's working overtime just to stay in her home.
Prices have skyrocketed with housing, with everything.
She's visiting Atlanta Housing to try and get some rental assistance.
I'm moving on a prayer. I do have an apartment now. They just went up on the rent again, so I'm currently at $1380.
But with federal cuts potentially looming, the Atlanta Housing Authorities decided to freeze rental rate hikes for any contract renewals after July 1st. Atlanta Housing receives 95% of its more than $450 million budget from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But there's growing concern from landlords worried about rising costs with no other way to pay for them but to increase rent.
I think Atlanta Housing is fighting as hard as they can.
Atlanta City Council member Liliana Bakhtiari says the city has to do everything it can to prevent homelessness from growing.
But I do believe Atlanta is resilient enough, and we have a strong enough philanthropic community and local community to come up with some solutions. But people will fall between the cracks, and they will be punished for their poverty.
As Kamaya Fuller continues to look for housing help, she hopes funding cuts don't come to her doorstep.
No one wants to be homeless, of course. I just feel like housing just gives a sense of safety. You can be comfortable. It's just everyone needs somewhere to stay.
In Atlanta, Joe Ripley, 11 Alive News.
Our thanks to Joe for that report. Now, Atlanta Housing's policy to freeze rent hikes is being reviewed. Federal funding, Atlanta Housing's budget, or other policies could factor into future rental rates.